Welcome to Ali Fitness Podcast, a weekly production all about bringing health into fitness. Dr. G, or Dr. Tim Gerstmar, to be more formal, has spent the last 10 years specialising in helping people with digestive and autoimmune issues. He's also the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Clear Path to Health. After his father suffered a severe stroke, Dr. G became one of his main caretakers and began obsessively studying medicine, learning about the best of both conventional and natural treatments. And then he went on to graduate from the most prestigious naturopathic medical school in the world, Bastyr University. Dr. G has spoken for audiences both nationally and internationally and is the member of affiliate clinical facility of the School of Naturopathic Medicine of Bastyr University, where he helps to train and mentor senior medical students to practice as doctors. He also runs a very successful practice himself. And Dr. G, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience, and I appreciate all the work you're doing. A lot of people, look at athletes and they say, well, because you're so active, you must be healthy. And it makes me happy, Ali, that you're reaching out to people and you're letting them know that being fit is one thing and being healthy is related, but not the same thing. And it's important that we help people to be the healthiest versions of themselves that they can be. So I'm excited to be on today.
Thank you. And that's, I guess, why I wanted you to come on, because I know you specialize in autoimmune and digestive issues. And
yes.
It became apparent to me, and I've got a question for you.
Sure.
In your experience, is the fit population more susceptible to these issues? Because I know a lot of fit people, and I feel like a lot of them, the majority of them, have actually at some stage of their career or their, life, have had some severe autoimmune or digestive or both issues.
Sure. And we know that digestive issues are really rampant among the endurance community in particular. Your marathoners, your triathletes, your people doing ultras, your long distance work and good digestive health are really not connected well with each other. And we know that extended. So in order for this to make a little bit of sense, most of your listeners probably know that we can divide the nervous system of the body into two pieces. One is called your sympathetic or your fight or flight responses. And you can imagine if you're just kind of hanging out and a tiger jumps out, what kind of happens? Well, all the blood goes to your muscles and you get a big shot of adrenaline and you take off. And so that's that physical performance aspect. Well, what also happens, all the blood gets diverted away from the digestive system, because if a tiger is chasing you, we don't need to spend much time digesting our food. And so when we're in high level athletics, the blood and the nervous system are all diverted away from the digestion to the muscles to keep you moving. And that's fine, except when we're talking about extended endurance activities, we're starving the digestive system of blood and of proper function, and that can lead to a lot of chronic digestive problems for our endurance athletes. So my experience is that athletes, especially more, people who are striving for high levels of performance, and especially endurance athletes, are going to suffer disproportionately from digestive issues. And then, of course, exercise is a beneficial thing to the body, but like everything, exercise has we talk about the, Goldilocks and the three bears. So too big, too small, and just right. And so most of our population suffers from not enough physical activity. And so that causes its own health problems. There's a sweet spot in the middle, and then we can overshoot as well. And so when we're doing high level athletics, it's often at the cost of our health. And we see that cause a lot of health crashes for people. And, for a lot of people that manifests as autoimmune disease as well. So I hope that does that answer your question, Ali?
Yeah. And I also wondered whether potentially, and we all know now that, you can't exercise out a bad diet, but I wonder whether potentially people who do exercise a lot think they can get away with sort of having a fairly bad diet.
Right.
And maybe that's another reason?
Well, for sure. I mean, look, your average person out there, when they think about, if they're not really clued into health and the influence that what they're eating is doing for their health, they're looking at their diet in terms of their weight and how fat or slender they are, their body composition. And many athletes, especially ones who are doing more intense activity, are burning so many calories that they're really not concerned about gaining fat or being overweight. And so they can get away with eating a lot of things, donuts and cookies and pastries and candies and junk food, and think that they're doing just fine because they're not getting fat from it. And so obviously that's one aspect. The quality of our food is not just fuel to the body. Of course, we are getting fuel, calories and protein and our other macros. We're also looking at our micronutrients, our vitamins, our minerals, all the different chemicals and compounds from our food that are either contributing to wellness or causing issues. And then, we can keep going further about how our diet is affecting our digestion and influencing our immune system and all these different aspects. So yeah, many athletes, especially younger ones who've never had to worry about their weight and are just looking to get in a lot of calories, are often eating really atrocious diets. And again, it will catch up with people sooner or later.
Interesting. And so when it does catch up with people, what do they do? And I know you've written an awesome book to tell them what to do, but let's talk about what you call the dark side and the dark side.
Right.
So I know you're a natural or integrated or however you'd like to say doctor, as opposed to the conventional doctor, let's say.
Right.
But you say that acute issues are often dealt with quite well by a conventional approach.
Right.
But chronic issues are a bit different. And you also write about integrated and holistic approaches are important. But you also mentioned that sometimes those sort of integrated health doctors tend to think they can treat everything and don't sort of really respect where their knowledge base lies. And so how do you know who you should see when you're sick and how often and sort of how long should you stay with that doctor before you're getting results?
Sure. Well, I think we need to think about things. I mean, this is a big topic and thank you for bringing it up so we can help bring some clarity to people, because my experience overwhelmingly is that people are just plain confused. We had an issue years ago, I'm sure you remember, I do, before the internet was really a thing. And getting the information we needed was the biggest challenge. If you were lucky, there was a good book or you found, a coach or a teacher who could give you the information. And if you couldn't, you were kind of stuck. You could go to research libraries and look at microfiche and microfilms and take all the books over and Xerox copy them. And I'm getting flashbacks to my college days now. But, that was the state of things, that people were desperate for information. Then the internet has come around. And the most miraculous thing about the internet is now we have all the information we want. In fact, the problem now is too much information and knowing what is good information and what is bad information. I know everyone out there has experienced it. You Google about exercise or training plans and you have, more options than you can shake a stick at. And the trick now is finding out what is correct. And so when it comes to medicine, we face this same problem. And there broadly speaking, two kind of issues. There are what are known as acute issues. That's if, you break your arm or you get sick with something. That's an acute issue. It comes on quickly. It's generally pretty easily identified. If you fall and you hurt your arm, we know that that's what caused it. That's where the problem is. And the conventional medical system is the best there's ever been at treating issues like that. If I'm in a car accident, I don't want you to take me, to an alternative or natural or holistic doctor. I want to get to the hospital. If I need surgery, I want to have that surgery done. And by and large, the conventional medical system is extremely good at handling these things, injuries and infections and serious life-threatening conditions. You want to go to the hospital, you want to see your MD about getting those things taken care of. But for more and more of us these days, those aren't the primary issues anymore. They still do happen, but most of us are dealing with chronic issues now, where there's no, I fell and broke my arm. There's, I have heart disease, or I have diabetes, or cancer, or autoimmune disease, or chronic digestive issues like irritable bowel syndrome, or heartburn, or GERD, where it's not so easy and straightforward. And MDs, by and large, have very poor tools to deal with these. If you have high blood pressure, they can put you on high blood pressure medication. Or if you have diabetes, you can go on diabetes medication. Or if you have autoimmune disease, there are a range of immune suppressing drugs. And all of those things can have their place and be helpful, but they don't ultimately treat the conditions. They manage the symptoms, but they don't get to the root causes and treat those. So all this is my very long-winded way of saying, if you have those acute issues, if you get in an accident or you have some of these acute problems, you need to go to your MD to get those taken care of. But when it comes to these chronic issues, again, things like heart disease, diabetes, autoimmune disease, digestive issues, all of these kind of concerns, an MD can help you with that and they can manage. But if we really truly want to try to get to the root causes of what's going on, that's where we need to start looking outside of the basic conventional system to a more holistic and integrated way of looking at these diseases.
Okay, so let's say it's a chronic disease and you know that you need to see someone.
Sure.
And you've decided to take that sort of natural, sort of integrated health approach because you're sick of just treating symptoms. You want to actually treat the cause and find out what's going on. Where do you start and how long do you stick with that person for before you get results?
Right. So obviously it is a lot harder. And, we take calls from people every week searching to find the right person. And it isn't as easy as just, calling up your regular doctor's office and seeing who is there, who they're recommending for you, because most MDs aren't trained in this holistic approach and don't know who to refer to out there. So it is confusing for people. Let me answer the easier question first, which is, how long to stick with it. So again, just like in training, I'm sure most of your audience who's listening knows that if you're constantly hopping from one training regimen or one style of training to another, as soon as you get bored or if you don't see immediate results coming from that regimen, you're going to end up just spinning your wheels and never making any progress. So we have to give an approach enough time to know if it's going to be effective. And then once we have an idea if it's actually producing results, then we can decide if it's the wrong approach for us or whether it needs to be modified. So what we tell people is, look, select an approach that feels best for you. So we'll talk about, who to see in just a second. But when you find someone and they lay out the approach that they're going to give you and what you're going to be doing, we recommend that you follow that approach for at least 3 months before turning around and deciding whether it's time to move on. 3 months is enough time that you should see some positive changes. Now, again, depending on what you're dealing with, many of the people that we work with autoimmune disease and chronic digestive issues that have been going on for a long time need 6 to 12 months and sometimes longer, depending on what's going on for them, to make a really significant and sustainable change in what's going on for a person. So unfortunately, these issues don't get better overnight. And I'm sure most of your listeners know to get to, peak performance isn't something you can get just after a couple of weeks of training. It takes dedicated time and effort to make those changes. Now, for a lot of people out there in general, instant gratification is the name of the game. And so certainly we see a lot of people who they'll try an approach, and a couple of weeks or a month later, if they're not getting the results that they want or fast enough, they're hopping from approach to approach to approach. And that's one of the reasons for that many people experience so much frustration and failure, is they're not willing to dig in and work the approach long enough to see if they're going to get results. So the short answer is try something for at least 3 months before you really are assessing, is this actually working for me? Now, having said that, if you start something, whatever regimen or protocol it is, and if you really do begin, it's a bad fit for you, and you really begin feeling much worse, or things are really moving in a wrong direction, don't keep going after something that's causing you harm, thinking, well, I have to do it for 3 months. But if you're not immediately getting the results that you're looking for, it doesn't necessarily mean that approach is wrong. We need to give it enough time to work to know if it's going to be effective for you. So does that make sense?
Yeah. And Dr. G, you sort of touched on something too that I think is really important. And it's the same with people who are training in fitness, is you've really got to trust the coach or the doctor in this case, or the method. You've got to intuitively think this is the right approach for me, and really trust it, because I feel like if there's any sense of mistrust, especially if you look back and you've tried all these different things and they haven't worked, you're very skeptical. And I speak from experience. I've never actually mentioned this, but it would have been about 10 years ago. I suffered for about 3 or 4 years with really bad IBS. It wasn't ever diagnosed correctly. And I can totally empathize with what you were saying about going from one doctor to one doctor. And I was just chasing and never giving it enough time. But not only that, not fully trusting in the doctor or the process.
Yeah. And that's, this swings us back to, how do I know who to see? And one aspect of that, you really do need to feel comfortable with the experts and the mentors and the teachers, the coaches, the doctors who are in your life. You need to feel comfortable, and you need to feel that you're in good hands. So regardless of how many degrees or where they went to school or their training or how many medals or accolades that these people have, if you don't actually feel comfortable and confident in their abilities and being around them and working with them, they are the wrong fit for you. You need to feel like, I'm in the right spot and I'm working with the right person, or else you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. And I've seen that over and over again with people, is, it has to be the right match. And we will turn people away from our practice if we feel like the chemistry is wrong and we're just not going to have a good fit together, because we know after years and years of doing this, we know the results are just not going to be good for a person.
Yeah, exactly. And so how does one go about this process in terms of finding someone?
Yeah, so I will put a little pitch out there. I have put a free ebook together, which lists out 11 questions that people can ask themselves and the provider that they're thinking of working with. They can get it absolutely for free on our website, because we do get this question so very often. Well, how do I know who's right? There's no easy, well, if they have this particular degree, they're going to be right for me, or this kind of training, they're going to be, the answer to what's going on. The complicated answer is, there are a lot of different providers, from, different type holistic medical doctors to naturopathic doctors, chiropractors and acupuncturists and coaches and herbalists. There's a nutritionist. There's a lot of different people out there who do really good work and who might be the right fit for you. So The short answer is, if people want to go to our website, I know we'll give all those in the end, but if they go to Aspire Natural Health and they click on free reports, they'll see one of the free reports there is how to choose an integrative doctor that works for you, and it lists questions inside that they can use to consider and to ask anybody that they're looking at working with.
Yeah, we'll link to that in the show notes.
Mm-hmm. And the other answer is, I mean, in short, you need to be thinking about, what do you need? So that can, a doctor obviously is going to have the broadest and most extensive training. Nutritionists are going to be more people who are working with diet. Acupuncturists are going to take, typically are going to use a more traditional Chinese medicine approach. And so there are a lot of different options, and it kind of comes down to what's going on for you. What are you looking for? And then, evaluating the person that you're thinking of seeing. So do they have the experience working with conditions like the ones that you're dealing with? Have they been able to help people? And again, then the issues with chemistry. Is this someone that you feel comfortable and you want to work with? Can they supply you the level of support that you need? Some people, I'm sure a lot of your athletes are kind of what we call the superstars, who can just, take things and run with it and have iron wills and make things happen. But a lot of people find they need a lot more support. And that's one direction we've seen personally a lot of failure is, doctors telling people, okay, great, here's what to do. Good luck. I'll see you in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And the superstars will take it and run with it. But for a lot of our more average or quote unquote normal people, we find they just get overwhelmed, they get lost, life gets in the way, they get confused, they have trouble, and they just don't make the progress, and then end up feeling bad about themselves. When the reality is, most of us, we need a little extra support, we need a little extra guidance, we even need a little bit of accountability or a kick in the rear sometimes to make those changes that we know we need to make, because life is busy these days, and making some of these changes is challenging.
I'm glad you mentioned that accountability, because I know you've got a great chapter in your book about health coaches, and
yes.
I actually run a health coaching company. I employ really great health coaches, and we work with a lot of doctors like yourself who don't have time to spend time outside of the clinic with the patient. And so what works really well is working with doctors who understand the approach and appreciate that their client's going to get better so much quicker. And then also the client obviously loves it, because you get that accountability piece as well as the support.
Yes. And I mean, when I first heard about health coaches about 3 or 4 years ago, a light bulb went on over my head, and it was a no-brainer that this was going to be an absolutely incredible advancement for patients, that the collaboration between doctors, other high-level providers who are doing, diagnosis, understanding what's going on for a person, putting a course of action out there that's tailored for what a person needs, and then health coaches who can help them implement those changes into their day-to-day lives, especially where we're not just talking about take 2 of these and call me in the morning, but we're talking about, lifestyle changes, diet changes. We're talking about, mindset changes and other things that are necessary to really find the root causes and recover from these chronic, again, not acute issues, but chronic issues that are plaguing people. It was obvious to me that health coaches were going to be an absolutely critical part of that. And I agree. In the years of practicing before health coaches and the years of practicing after, I've seen people get results quicker, better, and more sustainably when they use a health coach. The people who tell us, well, I don't need a health coach, I'm going to do it without it, we invariably find out they either feel like they've already got it all, or they're trying to save money, which I fully understand, but they end up costing themselves a lot. We find that they get poorer results. they get slower results. So it takes longer for them to get the same level. And the results typically are much less sustainable. So we find a much higher relapse rate in people who refuse to use health coaching. So I am 100% convinced you're on the right track. And I'm really happy to hear that you're partnering with a lot of doctors to offer them health coaching, because I know not all doctors understand what's necessary for health coaches, or even how to work with them properly.
Yeah, and vice versa. A lot of clients come to us and they don't know who they should see in terms of their issues. And so once they start working with health coaches, the health coaches obviously help them with the professional that they need to see, and then put them on to the correct person. Like, for example, let's say they had digestive issues. Well, we would put them on to Dr. G, because that's what he specializes in. We know he's helped our other clients. And so that works really well. And so I guess that's another thing. And I'm going to sort of put in the show notes the link that you provide, because that's an awesome way to start. But one thing that we haven't sort of touched upon, which I think is the first consideration that every American I ever ask tends to think about before they decide who they're going to use as their doctor. And that is, are they in my insurance network?
Yeah.
And that kills me.
Yeah.
Because I've got to tell you, my experience in America has, I'm blown away by the way that the system works here. And one sort of thing that I've actually come to realize, that if they are in the insurance network, then they're probably not the person I want to see.
Unfortunately, that's true. Unfortunately, I wish that, people ask us all the time, and I'd love to hear the rest of your story, but I can agree, and I fully understand. Health insurance for many people in this country is very expensive if they have it. Just having that health insurance for many is very expensive. And so it's understandable for people to say, listen, I'm already paying all this money for health insurance. Can't I get what I need within the system? And the answer is almost always for these chronic issues. Again, if you break your arm, please go to the hospital, use your insurance, get that care. But if you have these chronic issues, such as chronic digestive issues and autoimmunity, you're not going to get the kind of root cause care and the time and attention you're looking for, not because your MDs who are within the system don't want to help you. They, A, don't have the training to help you, and they, B, simply cannot take the time. As expensive as health insurance seems, people have to understand that doctors don't get paid that well from insurance. And the reason the doctor is only seeing you for 7 to 10 minutes, 15 typically at the outside, is because that's all insurance is paying for. And so even though many doctors want to see you longer, I've talked to many, many MDs who want to do this holistic approach. They don't possibly see how it can work within the insurance system. And as it's set right now, it really can't work well within the insurance system. So most providers who are practicing this root cause medicine, who are using health coaches, who are doing a lot of this work, don't take insurance, not because they don't want to, or they want to charge patients an arm and a leg or make it unaffordable for people. It's simply they can't actually make a living trying to do this kind of care and bill insurance. So unfortunately, that's the state of it for the vast majority of people, here in the States.
But unfortunately, I feel that there is a mentality that's, well, I don't have to pay for it, so I should use it. I mean, I'm already paying for my insurance, or my employer is paying for it.
Right.
But I guess my answer to that is at some stage in your life, health will become your biggest priority. And do you want it to be now or when it's too late?
Right. Well, unfortunately, health is one of those things that we often say, like, you can imagine your car or your house. You get it and it's brand new and everything's great. You don't necessarily have to treat it very well in the beginning. And little things will start to wear down. But for a long time, you can treat it poorly And nothing really seems to happen until things really start to go wrong. Now your roof is leaking, or now something in your car is really not working. When you change the oil on a regular basis, all you see is I'm spending money, and it takes time to either take it to the mechanic or do it myself to change the oil. And it doesn't, I don't really notice any difference when I change the oil in my car, or when I, do these little things to take care of my house. How do I know that spending that time and that energy, that money on all of those things is worth it? Well, unfortunately, down the road, once that car has, 100,000 miles on it or 200,000 miles on it, the difference of someone who's taken care of that car consistently versus someone who, didn't take the time or the energy now is tremendously apparent. And that's what we typically see. The average person in the States, in their teens and 20s, although unfortunately, I have to tell you, Allie, we're seeing more and more kids now with autoimmune diseases, with chronic digestive issues. We're seeing more people in their 20s, again, with chronic digestive and autoimmune issues. So it's not just what it was before, but typically most of us kind of coasted through our teens and 20s. We got into our 30s and we started to notice, a few things here or there that were bothering us, but, we're busy, jobs or families or all of the above, and we just kind of ignored it. And then for most people, they start getting into their 40s. Now there's starting to be some more significant issues going on. They're getting to the doctor. Often this is where they start on medications, maybe for a little bit of high blood pressure or some pre-diabetes, or maybe they're diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and they get into their 50s, and now one medication typically becomes 2 or 3 medications, and quality of life really kind of starts to suffer. And now they're in their 60s, and now often 2 or 3 medications, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 medications, and they're not able to do the things in their life that they really wanted to be doing. Maybe retirement, which was once such a dream for them, isn't looking like they had planned it to be. And most people enter their 70s now fairly disabled, not able to do the activities in their life they wanted to, spending a lot of time in doctor's offices, having, surgeries to replace things like hips or knees, and just not living the life that they thought they wanted to. So it is hard. It's kind of against our human nature to do a lot of the preventative medicine. But boy, oh boy, over a lifetime, we see the difference add up for people. Spending the time and the energy and the money now to deal with these issues instead of just letting it ride makes a really big difference down the road.
Absolutely. And so if I was to go to a conventional doctor, I'd expect to spend maybe 5 to 10 minutes with the doctor. Obviously, they're not going to get to know my issue. And even if they do, they might just have time to write the prescription.
Right.
How do you deal with your clients? Do you have like a systematic approach to the way you diagnose?
Sure. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's the systematic part, and then there's the very individualized part, because we know that most people dealing with digestive issues, most people dealing with autoimmune issues are going to have the same kind of cluster of problems going on. But of course, it's going to look a little bit different for everyone. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone. So we have our fundamentals and our basics that we're working for everyone that we see. And then, of course, we individualize each piece of it to work best for them. One of the key ideas from the book that I hope people take a look at and really take to heart is the idea that context matters. There is no, just like we would say, there is no one training regimen that everyone, no matter what age they are, no matter what sport they're doing, no matter what their goals are, there's not one thing that is right for everyone. The same thing holds true in health and medicine. Even though you may have autoimmunity and a friend of yours may have autoimmunity, in general, there are going to be a lot of basic things that are going to be similar, but it doesn't mean the protocol and the thing that worked for your friend is going to be the right option for you. So again, diet-wise, there are often things that work well, but it doesn't mean it's going to be exactly the same for everyone. It doesn't mean that the supplements that you read about from someone on the internet, maybe they have rheumatoid arthritis and you have rheumatoid arthritis, and they say, when I took these supplements or I did this diet, things worked really well for me. It doesn't guarantee that that exact same regimen is going to work properly for you, because context matters. So, we sit down, our first visit is an hour long. We sit down for an hour, do a very extensive intake of someone, trying to understand not only their disease, what that is, but also who the person is and what's going on in their life, so we can begin to put together a protocol that is individualized for their needs.
Great. And does that follow, or is there an intake form before that where you get the patient to fill out a lot of detail?
Yeah, for sure. And that often, maybe not for your audience, Allie, but definitely for, people in general. It's surprising, the people who are used to a regular doctor's office where, it's a page or two, maybe asking you a few questions and mostly focused on making sure they get your insurance information. Our intake is about 15 pages long, and it takes, somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes for people to fill out, and is asking questions about all kinds of stuff. People are surprised sometimes. They're coming to us for digestive issues or autoimmunity, and we're asking them about their hormones and, their what's going on in all these other aspects of their body, or traumatic events, or, concussions they've had in the past, all these kind of issues that for someone who's not thinking in a big picture holistic way, they can often be taken aback that, why are you asking all these questions? Well, it's because truly, in these acute issues, going back to that piece, if you break your arm, the problem is in your arm. But if you've had long-standing digestive or autoimmune issues, the focus may be right there, but the fact is that every other part of your body will get involved in what's going on. And if we don't treat the entirety of you, your chances of having really significant and then really sustained benefit from it is going to be low. Well, we can put a Band-Aid on top of it and you'll feel better for a while, but odds are that issue will just come back again if we don't do a really thorough and whole body perspective to healing.
So your clients fill out a 30 to 60 minute form, and then they meet with you for an hour.
They do.
And then where to from there? I mean, I know it's going to be a different case by case, but just roughly.
Sure. So, from there, then they usually go on to a 90-minute intake with our health coach, asking them all about their diet and their lifestyle, their mindset, all these different aspects. So we're gathering as much information as we possibly can about this person. We'll have either beforehand or after the first visit have requested records from other doctors or people they've seen, so we can gain an understanding of, what has already been checked out or looked at for that person. And then depending on all of that, we often will have some tests that we get done as well, because unfortunately, we often find that even if they've gone to see other, experts, we've had people go to some of the top clinics in the country, and we find that some good work has been done, but often there are these big gaping holes where things have not been checked out. And so often we'll send people off to get some additional tests done to, fill in those pieces and have this understanding of what's going on in the digestion, or what's going on in the hormones, or what a person's nutritional status looks like, or a whole host of other things. Again, it depends what is going on for a person, and in our investigation there, what we're seeing is likely to be an issue. So we'll usually send people off to get some tests done. And then, we're assembling all of that information together, from the intake to to the time that we've spent with the person, to the tests that other doctors have done, to the results of our own tests. And we'll pull that together into understanding what's going on for a person, and then from there into what we need to do to help a person get better.
Excellent. It sounds very comprehensive.
Well, it is, and again, if you just have a little acute problem, do you need this kind of approach? You don't. We have people call us and they say, well, I don't, what's going on for you? Well, nothing. Okay. Well, or something just very, very minor. How long's that been going on? A week or two now? Oh, well, okay. I mean, certainly I'm not going to say that I don't believe that everyone would benefit from a comprehensive overview of what's going on, and then a customized plan to address any little issues, again, preventatively before they become a big deal for someone. And then a little bit of coaching and guidance on, making some of these changes so that it never has to become diabetes or heart disease or anything like that. But the reality is most people out there don't want to invest the time, the money, or the energy unless they have a more significant issue. So most of the people that we work with have been suffering for a good while with some pretty serious issues that are going on. And so we need, if we really want to get after those things and make a big difference in those people's lives, we need to do a comprehensive investigation of what's going on, and then a plan that's customized to what that person really needs to get better.
And Dr. G, I feel like the biggest barrier for so many people, and we've talked about it already with the insurance, is money.
It is.
And I think one of the big factors is they don't even know how to budget for it or how much it's going to cost, because it's almost like you just don't know up front. It's not like you get a quote and that quote's going to then be all the treatment you need for a year, or is it? Do you offer a package like that?
Well, we do offer packages for sure. And it is a challenge, I mean, certainly you can spend a tremendous amount of money. You can. And so, we've over the years, we're always trying to hone in on, what's the most we can do for the least amount of money. Like, how much testing, for example, is really truly necessary. There are doctors out there who will order, thousands of dollars of tests out of pocket for people. And the question is it really necessary to do that? Now, there are some people, they're in such a place and in such a shape that intensive level of testing is really the best option for them. But what we found is that for most people, thousands of dollars of tests are not necessary, and usually hundreds of, a few $100s of tests does make the most sense for people. Now, some people do come to us and they've already had the test done, and that's not something, but most people, they're going to need to budget at least a few $100s to get some additional tests done in order to, make the most out of it. Now, we always do tell people, listen, you do have the choice. You can come in and based on what we see and what we understand, we can put together a plan for you based on our experience and what we see going on for you. Now, it won't be as fine-tuned because you don't have those additional tests to really narrow it down. And so there's going to be a little bit more trial and error going on for someone. And some people, so the length of time that it takes, again, this kind of comes back to the earlier question, well, how long should I give it? Well, the more we have to guess about what's going on, the more fine tuning will end up being necessary. So for example, if we're not going to do any tests and we're going to go on what we see going on, we'll start the treatment and then we'll need to get together and assess usually somewhere between 2 to 6 weeks after a person has begun treatment and see what's happening. Are things starting to move in the right direction, in the wrong direction, or is nothing really happening? And so depending on what's going on for someone, that may have to be repeated a handful of times in order to make sure that to find and make sure that someone's really on the right track, where if we can do some testing, often that will shortcut that process because we have more data available to us. So all that to say is, most people are going to want to do a little bit more testing, and often they're going to need to budget at least a few $100s to do that. And then, as far as care goes, you're right. Everyone's going to need something a little bit different as far as care goes. How, and people need to understand, it's how much support am I going to need? Again, am I someone who can take directions and don't really need a lot of support, don't need a lot of accountability? I can pretty much, once I know what to do, I can pretty much do it. Well, obviously, a lot more is going to rest on your shoulders, which means you're going to need a lot less care, which means it's going to be a lot less expensive. Where you may be someone, I know I need someone to really walk beside me, to really help me out, to reassure me if things aren't going the way that I expect, to hold me accountable, to give me a little kick in the butt when I need it. And so in the short term, you're going to end up paying more because you're going to need more of someone's time for that. But in the long run, you're going to think about it as an investment. You're going to put that in. And if you get those changes that you need, it's going to save you so much in the future, so much suffering and so much more money down the road. So it is going to depend. But, part of it is, what does a person need in terms of tests and need of follow-up and support, and exactly what's going on. So like people would expect, if you take your car to the mechanic and you just need an oil change, that's going to be a lot less expensive than, if your engine is basically, falling out of your car. So unfortunately, the sicker someone is and the longer it's been going on and the more complex and difficult it is, the more expensive it's going to be to unwind that, which comes back to our earlier point, Ali, about the more preventative the more preventative maintenance someone can do on their bodies, and the better they take care of themselves, the less need there's going to be to do, a lot of intensive medical work and the expenses that come along with it.
Yeah, well explained. And Dr. G, I like in your book how you talk about principles and strategies and tactics. And can you give us an example of how we can focus perhaps on principles rather than tactics to get well?
Sure. Well, again, this comes back to people are drowning in information on the internet, and we all like a good tactic. So we can think about it. Principles are going to be the big high level pieces. So we could say, people can think about when it comes to exercise, the principles of, specific adaptation, for one, and the fact that, we're going to need to increase strength and aerobic capacity and flexibility. And these big pieces are going to be principles. Then when principles guide us and orient us to what's going on, strategies start to get a little bit more specific. So if we identify that we don't have as much aerobic capacity as we need, then we can start to prioritize that in a strategy way. Then we get down to tactics, which are the specifics. So in my world of medicine, everybody likes the tactics. Take 2 of these and call me in the morning, or, 500 milligrams of this, or 14 days of that. It's the very specific tangible things. And we need those tactics. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of people are really focused there. Should I take supplement A, or should I take supplement B? That's a tactics question. Or should I take it once a day or twice a day, or 2 pills or 3 pills? Or should I eliminate gluten or dairy? Those are all at the level of tactics, and those are important. But the problem is we tend to focus there. And when we're stuck down at the level of tactics, we don't have any perspective on what's going on, and we can't even ask the question, should you be taking A or B in the first place? And the answer might be no. The reason you're not getting results with brand A or brand B is because that's not even the right thing to be taking in the first place. So the first thing we need to do, and this is where having an outside expert to be involved is so important, whether it's in athletics or whether it's in health, is because each of us is so close to our lives that we don't have the perspective that we need to really see the big picture and understand what's going on. But before we focus on the level of tactics, we need to step back and say, okay, what are the principles at play here? And from those principles, then we can devise strategies and then we can devise tactics. So for example, the principles of what healthy digestion are and the way these things, the digestion works and what a healthy digestion needs and what is going wrong on a big picture level when someone's digestion isn't working. By understanding those first, then we can come down to strategies about how to fix a person's digestion, whether it's healing leaky gut or whether it's dealing with other digestive dysfunctions. And once we have those strategies, then we can come down to tactics. And maybe that's to remove gluten from your diet or to take a specific supplement or to do a specific thing. And so I've structured the book in such a way as to talk about the major principles and strategies that govern health and disease. And so when a person reads it and understands those, Allie, then the tactics start to make a lot more sense to people, because we find that people come in just swamped and overwhelmed with tactics. And instead of just saying those tactics are wrong, do these tactics, we actually want to step back and focus first on on principles and strategies, and then everything tends to make so much more sense.
Perfect. So, Dr. G, the big question is, where do we get your book?
So, absolutely. The book is available. First of all, if you'd like a softcover version or the Kindle version, you can go to Amazon. Just search for The Clear Path to Health there on Amazon. Or I'd like to make a special offer. If anybody would like to get the eBook, we offer it 100% free. So we'll happily buy the eBook for you. And if you go to Aspire Natural Health, that's Aspire, ASPIRE, aspirenaturalhealth.com/book. So aspirenaturalhealth.com/book. You can go ahead and get it there absolutely free. So I would love if everyone listening would pick up a copy, would learn about the principles that guide health, and then would help to bring those out to the greater world, because we've got a lot of sick people out there suffering from digestive and autoimmune issues. And as much as I love helping people one-on-one, and I invite anybody who needs help to check us out and see if we might be the right fit to help you. But as much as I love working with people one-on-one, there are way more people that need help than I can. Even if I work 24/7, there's way more people that need help. So please read the book, learn the principles, and share with as many people out there so we can make the world a healthier place.
Awesome. And Dr. G, if someone does want to consult with you because they don't have any sort of good doctors in their area, are they able to do Skype or Zoom or whatever consults?
Great question. Yes, they are. So I'm located in the Seattle area. So we serve people locally in the greater Seattle and Washington area, but we consult with people nationally and internationally, because we find that there are just not enough well-trained holistic doctors to meet people's needs. In fact, earlier this week, I was consulting with a lady from Nebraska who's suffering from digestive and autoimmune issues. And she told me, I searched everywhere locally around me. I called and looked up all the different doctors and professionals that I could find. And there's literally no one within hours of me who can see to my needs. And so I'm reaching out to you to consult virtually and get help. And so we've seen people as far away as Australia, the Middle East, Europe and England, all over the place, providing as much help as we possibly can for people.
Great. Now, Dr. G, probably the most important question I'm going to ask you all day.
Sure.
Do you have a tattoo?
I do not have a tattoo. I have thought for many years about getting a tattoo. It's something that's always been interesting to me, and I've never found the thing that I feel 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, that's timeless enough that I'll be able to look back and get it. So I'm still on the search for what might be the timeless truth or thing that I want to have inscribed on my body.
So watch this space.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
For sure.
Look, thank you so much for your time and for all your knowledge, for writing this book. And I just hope everyone goes out and reads it, because it truly is, especially the online questions as well. It truly is helpful.
Yeah, I please, if you're feeling confused, the most people who contact us, they've got something going on. They've been to their regular doctor looking for help, and maybe they found a little bit of benefit, or unfortunately, maybe they were completely blown off and treated like they're crazy, or it's all in their head, they're making it up, or they're being a hypochondriac, or that the doctor just doesn't have time to help you. And a lot of people then end up going to the internet, and they're listening to podcasts, they're watching videos, they're reading blogs, they're trying to understand what's going on, they're trying to take their health into their own hands, but they don't have the time or the energy or the desire to be their own doctor. And a lot of times they end up wasting a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of energy trying to find help. And I feel for people. So we have these resources. The book is over 10 years of experience condensed down for you to take advantage of. And again, you can get it absolutely free at aspirenaturalhealth.com/book. My brain totally blanked out on what else I was going to say there.
That's okay. I think you were going to mention the questions, but we'll put it all in the show notes.
Yep. So here, I can just say that last piece, and then absolutely.
Thanks again, Dr. G. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to help. And again, if you don't know who to see as far as a practitioner, you can grab that free report where we list 11 questions that you can use to find someone who's the right fit for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Allie, and I appreciate you spreading the message. All the people out there, you're awesome for all your fitness activities, but please remember, being fit doesn't automatically make you healthy, and in fact, being fit can cover up some ill health, at least for a while. So please, in your pursuit of being the best you that you can be, please don't forget your health and to be healthy in the process.
Awesome. For all the resources and show notes from today's episode, please go to www.ali.fitness. If you liked today's episode, please show your appreciation by going to iTunes, give us a 5-star review, and subscribe.